Hey Guru Nation, how's it going? Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. Look, you guys and gals, I really appreciate it so much. The questions keep coming in from all different angles. It keeps me as a creator entertained. The question I got today was from Instagram. Everybody go follow me there too. Please help me out. They said, hey, you know what? I'm mad. I always wanted to invest in the industry I'm in, which is clinical research, but I've always been afraid to because of insider trading. I think this sounds like a CRA. So, can you make a quick video on the do's and don'ts of investing in stocks, in life sciences stocks? And primarily about sponsored companies. So, do's and don'ts. There's a couple things, all right? I'm not an attorney. I'm not a lawyer. I don't even play one on YouTube. So if you really have questions, you should consult legal advice. With that being said, let me give you some of my personal do's and don'ts, again, as a non-lawyer, just as a regular crazy person on YouTube. I've generally not been very successful with life sciences stocks. Here's why. First of all, I personally did not think it was right for me to own stock as a side owner in any companies that I do trials for at the time that I'm doing those studies. So I've bought stocks of sponsored companies after trials in the past, but that's generally after the information became public. Now, there's some misconceptions about being a researcher like a CRA or a side owner, that you have some kind of insider advantage, insider information. You really don't, unless you're at like a high level of the study. If you're just a CRA or just a site, you don't really have much insider information in most cases. Now, hypothetically, there could be insider information if you're, for example, one of maybe a dozen sites or so on a phase 2 study, and at your site that you're either monitoring or that you own, hypothetically, a couple patients start getting the same SAE. This is why I don't like to invest in companies, in sponsored companies, while I'm working on their studies. Just sponsors, not CROs, just sponsors, because of things like this. And you would basically have, in that case, in that hypothetical case, which has never happened to me in real life, an inside advantage in that case. So what person in their right mind would not sell that stock? Now, technically, and again, not an attorney, the Securities and Exchange Commission could see that, could view that as insider information. So that's why I stay away from sponsors, from buying stocks in sponsored companies of studies that I'm currently working on at the time. This does not apply to CROs, because CROs don't get paid any differently whether a drug is, as far as I know, don't get paid any differently whether a drug is approved or failed. Matter of fact, they're just a vendor. They just get paid regardless. So I think some of the most stable stocks in this industry are not the biotechs or the big pharma. They're the CROs. I've done videos on this. IQVIA is a great stock. Not stock advice, not financial advice. I think everything's a little bit overvalued right now. But IQVIA, Syneos, all these publicly traded stocks, CROs, you should pay attention to. You should also pay attention to some of the vendors in the space, primarily the really big ones that do a lot of stuff with tech. Viva is one that comes to mind. There's no real insider information there when you're a site or a CRO. They're just vendors. They're just tools. They're not involved in what's called a binary event, like a biotech company where they have a study and then they either make or break their stock based on the performance of that study or the results of that study. So I don't like to put myself in those kind of situations with those sponsor stocks of studies that I'm currently working on. Now, when the study's done, I've gone in and I have bought companies of sponsors that I've worked for, but I was acting on publicly traded information, right? Maybe I became aware of the company because of my work with them, but in most cases, I actually did not make money. I've actually broke even at best when I've been trading sponsor stocks. So it's a lot of times we think we know more than we do because we work in this space, when in actuality what we have to realize is Wall Street is very smart. Wall Street and the analysts are very intelligent, and if you look at some of these biotech stocks on websites like StockTwits, those people really study the company. Like, they know a lot more than you. Just because you're a CRA and you understand good clinical practice and you understand protocol compliance, it doesn't mean you understand whether the stock's going to be a good stock or not. So oftentimes I've seen, more often than not, and in my case for sure, me thinking that I know more than the average person about the industry is going to make me a more successful investor in this space, when in actuality, what has done the best for me is when it's been a vendor in this space or a company that I do not work with whatsoever. I just get curious about it because maybe I interviewed the CEO on my channel, or maybe somebody on Twitter told me about a company, and then I go look into it as a fan. I'm a fan of biotechs. So the only biotech stock I own right now, besides my retirement accounts, which I don't even know what I have in there. I think I have CRISPR Technologies because I'm a big fan of that technology. Never done a study with CRISPR. I think I have a few other biotechs like ChemPharm, KMPH, because I've interviewed the CEO so many times. I feel like I'm invested in that company, so why not just, I'm a fan of that company. Never done a study with them either. Those are in my retirement. I might have another one there. Again, none that I've done studies with. The only one that is in a non-retirement account that I'm trading is also one that I've never done a study with, Aquestive Therapeutics, AQST. I think it's good buying opportunity. Again, not financial advice. I like the technology, and I've never done study with them either. So the do's and don'ts are pretty simple. Don't put yourself in a situation where, if worst case, like the unfathomable happens, where you happen to get insider information even though you weren't trying to do that, then you're gonna have to make a choice, right? Like the first hypothetical example I gave you. So just to make it simple for myself, that's what I've done. If I'm working currently with a sponsor on a study in any capacity, I don't buy that stock. I could buy it after. If I own it before, doesn't mean I'm going to sell it just because I'm working with them either. But I won't buy more in that case. Vendors, I'm perfectly happy with. I don't think you're putting yourself in compromised situations. But if you do decide to buy a stock and you are at the site level or you're at the CRA, there are proper channels. There's financial disclosure forms, for example, at the site level. And if you're at the CRA level, at the CRO you work with, I'm sure if you ask HR or line managers, there's rules about that. I think there's financial disclosure forms for CRAs too. So you're still allowed to. You just have to disclose it. And that's my general rules of thumb, do's and don'ts. Basically, the biggest don't is don't put yourself in a situation where you may have to do insider trading, insider information. So I just set that rule for myself, but that's not a rule that the SEC put up. That's not a rule that the FDA put up. That's just something I put up for myself. Also, don't get overconfident in thinking that just because you work in the industry, that you're somehow a better investor than investors who do this for a living in all kinds of industries. But there are professional life sciences investors as well. And if you just do a little bit of research online, you'll see how much these guys and gals know and how insignificant your experience in this space actually is when it comes to what's the big binary things in a lot of these sponsors, whether they're biotechs or even bigger sponsors. It's the science behind it. Understanding clinical research and following protocols and good clinical practice and SOPs and all that stuff, that doesn't move stocks. What moves stocks is the science. So that's my do's and don'ts. Hopefully this helps. Thank you so much, Guru Nation. Good luck out there. Consult legal advice. That is not me, but I wanted to make this because somebody asked. You ask, I do my best to deliver. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Thank you. Bye-bye.